What's up, Trojans? Back with another Giants video. I know it's been a while. So I just want to go over some initial draft thoughts. I would like to have another draft video up before the actual draft, but we'll see how that goes. This video needs to happen. And then I'll just kind of get into random stuff that I missed over the last month. The last video I did was about Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley coming back, and stuff has come out that Saquon Barkley actually might not come back. But Daniel Jones at least is back in camp and happy, from what I can tell. So that's always good. Initial draft thoughts. Giants I think are in actually a really good spot in this year's draft. There's no one in the top 10, honestly, that stands out to me as this guy's amazing. How lucky is that team that they suck to be in that position? No one stands out to me like that in this draft. I know, I think it's Will Anderson, really good, but he's he's good. I mean, yeah, he's good, but I'm not feeling oh wow, Giants really missed out by not sucking this season. So whichever team gets him, definitely, I think, will be good for him. But yeah, I'm not hurt about it. There's some drafts where I am hurt about it, I thought Aiden Hutchinson would be really good, but we got Kayvon Thibodeau anyway, so I think that about worked out. Trying to go farther back, but there's been, Nick Bosa. All of these, the Giants are right there at the same time. So it's kind of awkward, but still, those are guys I'm man, it's a shame the Giants didn't suck a little bit more, because, we were already out of it. If we had just lost one more game, that's where it gets into it. It's a bad mindset, but a week before the draft, those are the thoughts that'll be getting into your head. But this time, 25th overall pick, I'm happy about it. I think the Giants are in a good spot, and if need be, I think there'll be good guys in the teens. Feel free to trade up. It's not that expensive to make a trade from 25 into the teens. Probably a third and a fourth if you want to get spicy. And really get up there, add the second round pick. That might be a tad overkill, though. Could definitely get anything done with a third and a fourth trading up. And, I have two names I would like to see the Giants draft, personally. The first one is probably a dream, because he probably won't get anywhere near the Giants. I could actually see a team taking him really early. There's oftentimes a run on wide receivers out of nowhere. That would be Quentin Johnston. Think he's really good size, and he came out with that quote a while back. He could see himself in blue, and he's working on his route running. Our general manager Joe Shane said he wants guys with good route running, and this guy said he's working on it. I think that could be a great move for the Giants. I think that would shore up that number one wide receiver spot. But otherwise, I'd like to see the Giants go with some safer positions, an offensive lineman if he's there. And the other guy I would like to see the Giants draft would be Trenton Simpson. I think he's a really good linebacker out of Clemson. I think he would work well in the Giants system. I think Wink Martindale would find some uses for a guy like that, and it would be great. But in more recent mocks, I'm seeing him fall into the second round. So there's a decent shot the Giants could pick him up there. If they don't trade up in the first round, could trade up in the second round, snag him for so much cheaper. It'd be a great move for the Giants to get him in the second round. Honestly, it's like Azeez Ojulari a couple years back. He's a guy I was looking at in the first round, and when the Giants didn't draft him and they got Kadarius Toney instead, I was like, oh, that sucks. Now we don't get Azeez Ojulari, and he just fell to the second round. It was amazing. So that draft did work out in that aspect. We got the guy I wanted first round, the second round, and he's still here. Look at that. Works out. But yeah, those are two guys I would like to see the Giants draft. Other than those guys, I don't want the Giants to draft another Wan'Dale Robinson. I know Zay Flowers is a popular name, but that's another short route-running wide receiver. I don't need 5 guys doing the exact same thing on this offense. I would like to see some variety. I know Joe Shane said he likes route running, but I don't think we need 5 of the exact same wide receiver on this roster. I think it will work better if we have a tall guy, we have a fast guy, and then we have a good route runner. Right now we have a guy, Wan'Dale Robinson, that seems to be that great route runner slot guy. Sterling Shepard's here too. I know Sterling Shepard's not a long-term solution, but I really like Sterling Shepard. I'm hyped he's back. The closest I got in the last month to making a video was hearing that Sterling Shepard came back. All the other news, I was like, yeah, I can get to it at any point. But Sterling Shepard coming back, I was so close to making a video over. But yeah, I'm not in the mood to draft a Wan'Dale Robinson clone. Not really in the mood to draft a corner. I know it is a need on the roster, but if we're going corners, I would like to see that, unless like Trenton Simpson's fallen in the second round, I'd like to see that done there, or the third round. Anywhere in there, I think would be better for corners. The Giants do not have a good record recently in drafting corners in the first round. I know that's a different regime, or two different regimes I'm referring to, actually, Eli Apple and DeAndre Baker. But I don't know. I'm not liking the sound of it. I know the Giants were probably going to draft Gardner last year if the Jets didn't pick him at 4. Giants got Kayvon Thibodeau instead. Not complaining about it, but Gardner proved to be a really good corner. So I think the Giants were right on that one if they were planning to draft him. But we'll see what happens when it comes to the draft. I won't be upset if the Giants draft a corner. I'll just be nervous. It will have a very minimal reaction from me. If they draft a Wan'Dale Robinson clone, though, I'll be a little annoyed. If they draft anything other than the two guys I mentioned, I'm up for it, I guess. I'm not a professional scout or general manager, obviously, so I'll take the Giants' word for it at the time that it's in the team's best interest, and hope it works out in the season. Offensive line, huge need. I would just be nervous about corner as well. Linebacker would be cool. I know we got, I think it's Okereke in free agency. Seems like a solid, like Blake Martinez replacement, that type, just a guy that's going to get some tackles for us. Julian Love kind of filled that role last year, just getting tackles. So it'll be good to have a linebacker doing that again. But yeah, I think the Giants are in a great spot to go anywhere in this draft because I think they did a good job in free agency of just making a bunch of small signings. And that's going to be great for this draft because the Giants can trade up, they can trade back, they can trade with anybody, and they're not locked into one position. There's definitely a couple years in the draft where it's like, wow, the Giants need to draft this position. Like, we all know they're going to draft this guy, right? Like, we all know that. This guy is a high-quality player at a position the Giants need. The Giants are going to draft that guy, right? I'm not seeing that here. I think the Giants could go in several different directions. If they didn't sign Okereke, I'd say definitely need to get a guy like Simpson. If they didn't sign multiple wide receivers in free agency, I'd say definitely need a wide receiver. If I actually do think they need an offensive lineman desperately, but I don't know if there's an offensive lineman that's going to be like mocked to go at like 20 that the Giants, like in the 20s, that the Giants need to get their hands on. I'm not seeing it right now. I'm seeing more of the Giants going corner or wide receiver because that's mainly what they've been scouting. If they don't go offensive lineman early, that would be another position I'd like to see in the second or third round. So if they, go wild card, not either their position of need, offensive lineman, corner in the first round, definitely just pick that up, corner second round, offensive lineman third round, or vice versa on that. Just pick those guys up there. If they, I don't know. I'm thinking the draft's going to work out for the Giants. The only other scenario I would hate to see is the Giants drafting Robinson, the running back, because that would mean they're planning on kicking Saquon Barkley out the door. They'll say, yeah, no, don't sign that franchise tag. We don't care. We got this guy now. And I would hate to see that. That's the one scenario that would piss me off. That would make me pretty upset if they just walked out on Saquon Barkley like that. I know he's a great player, but I don't think the Giants will even be in a position to take him. I think he'll go long before the Giants, or even in trade-up range, actually. I think he'll go, like, early in the teens. He's a bit of a wild card from the mocks I've seen, but I think someone's going to jump on him. It'll be like the Giants jumped on Saquon, number 2 overall. I don't think Saquon would have gone number 2 overall if anyone but the Giants was picking there. So, yeah, I think a guy like that will go early on. And we'll have to see what happens. Otherwise, reacting to some of that free agency stuff, I touched on some of it already. I like Okereke. Seems like a position of need that we got there. Shores it up for the draft, so we're not desperate for drafting a guy like Simpson. We're not desperate for drafting any linebacker for that matter. We got a couple good wide receivers, so we're not necessarily desperate to draft a wide receiver, but it would help. I don't think we have that guy's our number 1 wide receiver on the roster like we had with Odell. But I think a guy like Quentin Johnston could be that. Potentially. I know it's bad to compare draft guys to great NFL guys, but that's why you're drafting them. You think they could be that. You don't think it's a guarantee, but you think they could be. Otherwise, I know Darren Waller, huge trade deal with the Raiders. It's fun how things go full circle with Kadarius Toney on that one. Kadarius Toney for Darren Waller seems like a pretty solid trade in my opinion. Because it was the pick we got for Toney went to the Raiders for Waller. But and Kadarius Toney knocked the Eagles out of the Super Bowl. And so did James Bradbury. It's amazing how the Giants planned this out. But I like that trade, but I didn't wow me in that I needed to come on here and let me state my thoughts on it. I thought it was a good move. Glad the Giants did it. I think it'll be interesting to see how he performs in this offense. I think the Giants are happy they have a very versatile tight end like that, especially since Bellinger's proven to be a competent tight end, as I hoped he would be. So we can actually run some 2 tight end sets because we got 2 guys that can play it, assuming both of our tight ends that I'm referring to, Bellinger and Darren Waller, have an injury history. So hopefully they don't get injured at all in the season. A lot of the guys we've picked up happen to have injury problems. It's really weird. It felt like the Giants for a while were going the injury-free route. Nope, we can't get a guy that's ever had an injury ever. And then 5 seconds later, they're like, oh, that guy with the long injury history? Yeah, bring him in. That guy that has a long injury history? Yeah, we need that guy here. I don't know. It'd be funny, but if no one gets injured, all these guys with long injury histories, they just don't get injured. None of them whatsoever. The turf saves the day. It's amazing because the Giants just changed the turf. And hopefully that actually does help because I've heard players talk about this and they're like, yeah, the turf sucks in a couple stadiums. And I don't know if any of them said MetLife specifically, but I know one team a while back, I think it was the 49ers after, I think it was Nick Bosa tore his ACL against the Jets. A bunch of the 49ers players were like, yeah, the turf sucked. Why don't you guys replace that? It's yeah, it should get replaced. Well, now it's getting replaced. Always good to have better turf and hopefully reduce player injury. Let's see, other than free agency, I guess some contract news. If I think the Giants did good all around in free agency. Contracts. We got Dexter Lawrence and Saquon Barkley. Currently not at... Now, voluntary, I know, but it's voluntary mandatory. It's always a story if someone doesn't show up. That started, I think, yesterday. And the Giants had a couple guys not present. Brian Dable doesn't seem too worried about it. I think both guys, it's reasonable why they aren't there. Dexter Lawrence is in the middle of negotiating a new contract. It'd be a shame if you got injured while negotiating a new contract. It's not a good look. I know it's probably just running around and practicing drills and such, but there's a chance you get injured doing that. So take it easy there. Don't get injured and finish negotiating that contract. The second he gets paid, he'll be there. Saquon Barkley, on the other hand, actually technically isn't a Giant right now. He's kind of in a weird state of limbo. because, since the Giants offered the franchise tag to him, he can't sign with other teams, thankfully. But, he can, but the other team would have to give up 2 first-round picks to get him. And I don't know who wants to pay Saquon Barkley $16 million and give up 2 first-round picks. So I think the Giants are good there. So hopefully Saquon Barkley ends up signing a long-term deal if he's not liking the franchise tag. He has until July, and I think if it comes down to it, he will sign the franchise tag. I believe it was Joe Shane that came out and said he's content with letting Saquon Barkley play on the franchise tag, and it's no surprise why. $10 million for a top-end running back instead of having to pay him $14 million over 4 years, or however much Saquon Barkley's asking him for. It's probably a bit easier on the cap to just, save that money and just pay him $10 million this year and get that elite talent, and then going at him franchise tag by franchise tag, you're saving a lot of money. It's really crazy how the running back market is so messed up, because I actually think an elite running back is a powerful position in an offense. I think it's extremely undervalued. All these guys, they come out with all of the stats and stuff. And, there's a lot of good evidence that you don't need an elite running back, but I think it really does provide something unique to an offense and is helpful. The issue is they get injured. I think that's really the only thing holding back teams from going out of their way to get an elite running back. Same way I think an elite wide receiver helps an offense. Actually, I would make the argument that having an elite running back can be better than having an elite wide receiver. Can be. The problem is running backs require a lot more to succeed than wide receivers, and they happen to get injured more than wide receivers, which is why they aren't valued as much in the NFL. But I think if you get an average offensive line, let's say like 16th in the NFL in every single category, and you have an absolutely elite running back, I think you're doing better off than if you have the same offensive line, same quarterback, or like an average quarterback and an elite wide receiver. I think it works out better. That's just my opinion. But I like running backs more. It's a shame that the injuries make them less valued than wide receivers, because wide receivers are getting paid and running backs are actually getting paid less. It's absolutely insane. So Saquon Barkley's caught in a tough situation right now. Hopefully everybody comes to their senses and there's a nice even-keeled deal worked out. The length is probably about 3 years. They would do, whether or not Saquon Barkley plays the franchise tag this year or not. So, like, next year, I think they would still be negotiating around 3 years. Or if they sign it this year, I still think they're negotiating around 3 years. Because I don't think either side... Well, I think Saquon Barkley would love a 7-year contract, but no one's going to give that to him, because running backs don't do too well in their 30s normally, when wide receivers can be okay until, like, getting up in the 30s. Not, like, 38, unless you're Larry Fitzgerald. But, like 32-year-old wide receivers can still do fairly well. 32-year-old running backs aren't known to do amazing. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. The Saquon Barkley situation is pretty wild. Meanwhile, the Dexter Lawrence one is just the guy wants more money, right? Probably rightfully so. He had a great season last year. He wants more money. He wants a long-term extension, and he's doing what he needs to do to get that, and I think the Giants are going to give that to him. They're just working out some small details, like I imagine the Daniel Jones contract. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, with the Daniel Jones contract, the $40 million per year and the incentives were all worked out, like, 2 weeks, well, maybe not 2 weeks ago, but, like, a while before they were 5 minutes until the franchise tag deadline. That wouldn't surprise me at all, because some of the other stuff in the contracts might be the guaranteed money, the length, how, in, like, what order the guy gets paid. A lot of stuff goes into it. That's how, like, all the contract stuff is released, like, 5 seconds after the guy signs it. You get the whole thing, the full breakdown, because it's all there. It's not like, there's some loose contract. It's like, we'll pay the guy like about $40 million a year. We'll call it like 4 years. And then someone goes into a back room and crunches numbers for a week, the best way to arrange it, and the guy just has to accept it. Like, all of it's in the contract. It's worked out entirely. So, yeah, there's probably a lot of random stuff being worked out with the Dexter Lawrence contract. They may have already settled, like, he's going to make $20 million a year. I mean, actually, considering that Leonard Williams is getting paid $21 million a year, or he's actually getting paid a lot more against the cap this year. He's in the 30s against the cap this year, and the Giants are just going to have to eat that. A lot of cap space next season. It was okay this season. The Giants had an okay cap space this season. That's how they were able to make some smart moves in free agency and get... I really think the most expensive move the Giants made was okay. It was like 4 years, $10 million a year. Maybe it was only 3 years, $10 million a year. I think it was 4, though. I think it was like 4 years, $40 million. Very standard contract for a solid tackling linebacker. It was pretty good. So... yeah, there's a lot to work out there, and I think Dexter Lawrence is going to get paid more than Leonard Williams. So since Leonard Williams is getting paid, or was getting paid $21 million 3 years, he'll probably want $22 million 4 years. I'm assuming. I believe Dexter Lawrence is younger than Leonard Williams was when he signed that, because Leonard was franchise tagged for a year, I believe, and then signed. So since Dexter Lawrence is not even doing his 5th-year option before negotiating the contract, I believe he's younger than Leonard Williams was. I'd be shocked to learn that he wasn't, just based on that. But some guys come out of the draft late. It's weird. Like, there's a guy, I think, coming out this year that's older than Daniel Jones. Like, how does that happen? Yeah. So, I think Dexter Lawrence is going to get paid a lot of money, probably a seemingly staggering amount of money, but the defensive line market's working itself out pretty well, because those guys can change a game. But the problem with those guys is they don't always change the game. It's a very inconsistent position. But when it hits, it hits. Man, a guy getting 3 sacks in a game, multiple pressures, that quarterback's feeling it. That quarterback's throwing interceptions. That quarterback's missing throws. That quarterback has no idea what to do. So, then you try to run the ball. Well, the guy's still coming at you the same way right up the middle. And so he can tackle that running back too. So that market seems to be doing pretty well. The inside guys are starting to get paid like outside guys. So that market's like, I think it's working itself out pretty well. The running back market, however, is not, which is why the Saquon Barkley situation, as I said before, is absolutely insane. That one, I hope, comes to a good conclusion where Saquon Barkley gets paid, like, I'm just going to say 3 years, $13 million a year, and guarantee 2 years of it. Guarantee $26 million. That's probably about what is going to have to happen if a deal gets made. Otherwise, the Giants may be forced to let Saquon walk or attempt to trade him, but I don't know how. I don't think that would be very beneficial to the Giants. I think the Giants might be able to get like a 3rd or 4th for him, whoop-de-doo. Not really a good move. So I think the Giants will ultimately try to offer him some fair contracts, and we'll just have to hope that Saquon Barkley takes one of them. If the Giants are offering him fair contracts, that sucks. But I'm not sure exactly how that's going. It's not like the Lamar situation where like contract numbers have been thrown around a lot. There was the one number at the bye week that was like 12 something. It was like 12 round up to 13 mil a year, but I don't know the guaranteed money on that. I don't know the length of that. That sounds slightly lower than I think Saquon's worth, so no wonder he turned it down. But, that's a start. I thought that would be more of a starting point, so I thought the Giants would end up paying him like $14 million a year 3 years or something. But I actually wonder if the Giants went down on that offer. I wonder if they started negotiating down from there. Joe Shane said that offer was rescinded. Well, he didn't say it like that, but he was like, we started over, which means that offer isn't like out there, which means it would have had to be rescinded in some way, shape, or form. Whether it was actively like taken away or just moved to the side, it doesn't sound like Saquon Barkley can just come back and be like, yeah, I'll just take that one now. That one seems good. But maybe it wasn't rescinded. Maybe it's just sitting there and they are talking 14 versus 15 right now. It is really tough to tell. Nothing has come out. So I have no idea what happened there. But negotiations have been reset. They're going crazy. A lot's going on. And I'm just looking forward to this draft. Hopefully everything ends up okay with Saquon Barkley. I would really like it if he came back this season because he was great last season. And even later in the season when he wasn't putting up the elite numbers that he was putting up the first few weeks, he was a huge contributor to all of the Giants' late season wins. He made the plays they needed to make. And it was great to see him healthy the entire... I don't want to say that one because I'm trying to remember now if he did miss like one game due to a small injury. But I think he was... I don't remember him missing like an extended amount of games. I don't remember anything like too crazy happening there. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he was healthy for the entire season because I feel like he was. I don't remember him having any major issues. But healthy enough. Because, I mean, if you can't remember whether or not the guy was injured, the guy probably wasn't injured that bad. I think he had an injury, but it didn't keep him off the field. He had like some really weird injury where everyone was like, oh, is he doing okay on that one? It's like injuring him. He showed up on the injury report like every week. It was a shoulder. That's what it was. He had a hurt shoulder for like 5 weeks of the season, but I don't think he missed a game because of it. I think it was just kind of probably a thing that he was playing through, which, sheesh. It was a good thing he was able to play through it, but that took some heart, man. So yeah, hopefully all that gets resolved. I know this has been a long one. I'm probably rambling. And I know I've probably said that several times now. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys made it this far. And yeah, let me know what you think about the initial draft thoughts. And if you have any other opinions on what's going on with the whole Saquon Barkley situation. Because that one is wild. They're on new negotiating terms. I don't think an offer has necessarily been rescinded, but that's not what they're talking about. The numbers are different than that now. They have to be. Otherwise, why would it have been signed? All speculation, as always. See you guys in the next one.